These are not revolutionary. This is not new technology. So you can go with a more basic moisturizer as long as your active ingredients are actually present and working for you.
We're going to talk about really what's best value, not necessarily the least expensive, although we'll help you with that.
So toners I tend to skip because the whole concept of needing to balance your skin's pH, I think our skin does that naturally on its own. So I know that's a controversial point. Some people like toners. That's not something I particularly recommend for my patients, although I feel like if you want to, that's fine.
Correct. And I also recommend to my patients to try to avoid any coloring, preservative, or fragrance because it may smell nice. You don't really need that in the cleanser. You just want it to work.
Beauty scientists Dr. Kristy Hamilton and Dr. Roy Kim. Real beauty without the hype.
Hello, my name is Dr. Roy Kim. I'm here with Dr. Kristy Hamilton, and we are your co-hosts for The Beauty Scientists. So today is going to be a great topic because we're going to be talking about one of our favorites, not just skincare. We're going to talk about really what's best value, not necessarily the least expensive, although we'll help you with that. We're talking about the least expensive that'll actually do something for your skin. So I know, Kristy, that you have a ton of patients who ask you these types of questions. What do you think are sort of the foundations we'll first talk about over-the-counter, the prescription. What are sort of the foundation, the basis of over-the-counter, easily obtainable things, as well as your ways to save money on them?
So I tell patients when we're talking about the active ingredients, so we're going to do a consultation. We're going to figure out what the skincare concerns are, pigment, aging, wrinkles, whatever it may be. And then the clinical grade products are just going to have way more active ingredient present in them, and the quality of those ingredients are going to be substantially better. And so that is why when you're choosing your active products, you definitely want to go with clinical or prescription grade. And we're going to go into this, but then there's some other ones where it's like when you're considering moisturizers, for example, they're moisturizing ingredients, good ingredients, lipids. These are not revolutionary. This is not new technology. So you can go with a more basic moisturizer as long as your active ingredients are actually present and working for you in the skincare regimen you're choosing.
Yeah. So with cleansers, there are now more options, including gel, foam, soap, oil, micellar water, double cleansing, blah, blah, blah. And I say blah, blah, blah because I think some of it's hyped. So what are the things that you look for, recommend in a good cleanser?
Cleanser, I agree. I think that's one not to spend too much on. We need something that's going to clean your skin. If you wear a lot of makeup, then double cleansing can be nice, like using like the oil or micellar water to remove that and then following with the soap of your choice. I think it comes down to your skin type. You may prefer a more gentle, or if you're drier, you might prefer a creamier one, but ultimately whatever you like, I think that's fine. What do you think?
I think that's all correct. And I also recommend to my patients to try to avoid any coloring, preservative, or fragrance because it may smell nice. You don't really need that in the cleanser. You just want it to work.
Yeah, and increasingly we're finding fragrances, some of them can be associated with all sorts of other issues like endocrine disruption and whatnot. So just choose something simple that your skin tolerates well, and do make sure you cleanse. I think that's really important. It's more like the act of cleansing as opposed to which one you're choosing.
Yeah. And then for toners, which can really clean the skin but can actually make the skin dry, do you have any recommendations for that?
So toners I tend to skip because the whole concept of needing to balance your skin's pH, I think our skin does that naturally on its own. So I know that's a controversial point. Some people like toners. That's not something I particularly recommend for my patients, although I feel like if you want to, that's fine.
Yeah. And then certainly with toner, you can save a lot of money by just getting witch hazel, alcohol pads, which seems a bit extreme, but it does work, especially in some patients.
Yeah, and some patients overdo it on the toner and then they find like their skin's dry afterwards or irritated. So that's also one of the reasons you would see us or a dermatologist, so that we make sure that we're choosing a regimen that is really customized to your skin because everyone's a little bit different.
So for moisturizers, there are a ton of options, including hyaluronic acid, glycerin, ceramides, etc. What do you recommend for patients?
I love ceramides. I love lipids. I think for moisturizers, the moisturizing step is really important. So even for the oily people out there, you still need a moisturizer because you have to protect your skin barrier and support your skin barrier. So sometimes the oily people think that if they skip moisturizer, they're going to be less oily. In fact, you're going to increase your oil production and become even oilier. So I think moisturizer, again, is another step that's important, but don't have a strong opinion on going for cosmeceutical grade products versus over the counter.
Yeah. And I also tell my patients, I echo the same thing I said before, avoid fragrances, colors, things like that. That's just more irritation. Why pay for it as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's foundation of a good skincare regimen. We haven't gone to any of the serums yet. And then of course, like probably number one thing that you need to do, sunscreen. So
Yep.
that's would be the next step. And that's absolutely essential. I don't care how much melanin you have in your skin, whether you never go outside. Some patients are like, oh, I'm always indoors. Are there windows in your office? Yes. Are there lights in your office? Are there screens? Yes, there are. So you're getting that peripheral damage. So number one, prevention is worth a pound, an ounce of prevention worth a pound of cure. So you got to be protecting your skin. And if you do only that, there's going to be a profound difference in your skin 10 years from now versus where you are now.
Yeah. Any preferences as sunscreen?
I prefer mineral based. I'm really trying to avoid the chemical sunscreens, although I tell patients, look, if you find one and that's the only one that you're going to wear, any sunscreen is better than no sunscreen, but I prefer the mineral based ones, so zinc oxide, titanium dioxide.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then, of course, with patients, you have to let them know SPF 30 or higher is good. Not certain if I'd pay extra for SPF 60. And again, the more fragrance you have, the more potentially irritating for the skin it is. And why pay for it if it's not even that great for you?
That's a really good point too. It's like you don't have to wear SPF 70. So when you look at the curve of how much protection you're getting, it's like marginal. People think, oh, I'm getting double the protection if I go from SPF 35 to 70. And that's not the case. So maybe if you're on, a major sun exposure trip, it's better to increase your SPF for the beach. But from a daily use perspective, 35 is just fine.
So, of course, holistically, some of the foundations of good skin care included really taking care of your body. So, we're talking about your diet, macronutrients, micronutrients. Of course, some of the basics include don't smoke, protect your skin from the sun. But in terms of macronutrients, we're talking about proteins, fats, carbohydrates, anything you'd recommend there?
So, healthy, balanced diet, of course, you are what you eat. So, if you eat horribly, your skin is going to be reflected, is going to reflect that. And then, we've discussed collagen before, and I was initially not on the collagen bandwagon because it just didn't make sense to me and there wasn't data to support it. But there is an increasing body of evidence that not that you eat the collagen and it goes straight into your skin from that because it's a huge molecule, but it's another way when you break down those collagen molecules to give you more building blocks. Whether you need to take collagen versus just have a healthy diet that's rich in amino acids and proteins, that remains to be seen. But yes, more healthy, organic, pasture-raised meats, high protein, all that's really essential so that your body has enough material to heal itself and repair itself.
Yeah. And I would echo not just fat, healthier fats. That's very good for your overall health and skin hydration. If you're a carb hater or avoiding it, well, you still actually need carbs for other purposes in your body. So it's good to have some carbs in your diet.
Everything in moderation and just high quality. And it's like when we say carbs, we're not talking about chips. We're talking about high quality grains, non-genetically modified, just real food,
Yes.
unprocessed food. That'll get you 95% of the way there.
And then micronutrients and antioxidants, they're a big thing. Again, I think if you're eating whole foods, you're cooking yourself, and you're eating healthier food, that's less of a consideration. But in terms of vitamins and minerals, what do you think in terms of supplements or not?
I agree. I think if you're eating a healthy, balanced diet, it's not necessary. If you're a little concerned about the quality of your food or you're just not very consistent, then a prenatal, even if you're not a woman trying to get pregnant, that has a lot of the micronutrients that you need for baby's development. So you can extrapolate that to your skin. So that's a great starting point.
Yeah. And there are, weirdly enough, foods to limit. So some of this is common sense, which would include junk food, preservatives, unusual foods that when you look them up, you don't actually know and you need a chemistry degree to figure out what they are. Some of them include excess alcohol, excessive caffeine, but what about sugar and other things that you want to avoid?
Oh, we know sugar is terrible for your skin. So that is something, and it's terrible for your health in general. So while we need a little bit to live, it's not nearly as much as you find out there in the world, in the grocery store, in the American diet. So if you can limit unrefined, processed carbohydrates, then that's better.
Now, we're going to talk about over-the-counter medications, and I think you and I are in agreement. Weirdly enough, there isn't that much over the counter in terms of skincare that we'd recommend. So, what do you think about vitamin C, other things that are antioxidant in nature?
So that antioxidants, that is one of the serums that I tell this. I have my patients do it in the morning. I know some physicians have them do it in the evening, but that is one of the serums that actually really does help. Now the question is what's the quality of that antioxidant? Are there multiple? Is there one? Is it 1% of what's in the vial? Because oftentimes it's not indicated. And also, is it stabilized? The reason that the higher quality antioxidants are a little bit more expensive is because they've taken the time to stabilize it so that the moment you pop open the bottle, the whole thing doesn't just oxidize. And then you're just putting kind of fancy fragrance serum on your face that's not actually doing anything. So that's why it's really important. You can't just have something that smells like oranges and put it on your face and expect that it's going to do anything for you. So that's why we like the cosmeceutical brands, the medical grade or clinical grade skincare, because those companies, their serums, antioxidant serums are backed by white papers in the journal, and they've done some studies on them, so we can actually see the improvement. But those are great. They're undoing like free radical damage. So whatever your sunscreen's not able to block out, because we're all probably not reapplying during the day or not nearly as much as we should, it's going to undo some of the damage caused by the pollutants, excess sun exposure, some of our diet if we're not perfect all the time. And so that can be very helpful in terms of pigment, evening, and just general anti-aging.
Yeah. We all know common sense wise, if you cut an orange, eventually it will go bad, but it will turn brown. It'll have a slightly off smell. The same is true actually for antioxidants in skincare, where it may not smell bad. Sometimes it does, but if it turns brown, it's just not as effective. And the stabilized ones definitely are more effective for a longer period of time. You're actually getting more of your money's worth, if you will.
Yes. And so if you are going to invest in one of those really excellent antioxidants, I tell patients this is not a product that it's special that you worship on your countertop. This is one that you would, once you decide to open it, you use it every morning. You incorporate it into your regimen. If you are able to keep up with it and do it routinely, great. Please continue to do so. If not, you're better off opening up one vial. Let's say you can do one a year, open up one, use it for the next 2 months. And then if you're waiting another year to do it again, that's great, but don't let it sit there for 6 to 9 months. Even the highest quality antioxidants are not going to be, the active ingredients aren't going to be functional at that point.
Yeah. And then next up, antioxidants really help with, skin damage as well as preventing fine wrinkles. Another great one, I should rephrase this, a good one, but we think one is better. Retinol is over the counter. It's derived from vitamin A. However, at least I think you think too, Retin A, which is prescription, is a little better. And so retinol, I don't necessarily tell my patients to get. I do recommend Retin A more. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, the prescription grade is just stronger. Well, depending on which one, it's like 20 to 30 times more active than the retinol. And again, it's like how much concentration of the retinols on the over-the-counter ones. If you are going to start with a retinol, get the clinical grade skincare ones. Sometimes I do start patients on the retinol just because of skin sensitivity. Patients who've never been on these products, they'll see a lot of peeling initially, turning over their skin. So some patients like to start with the gentler retinol approach, but ultimately our goal is to get everyone on prescription because it's more effective. And tretinoin, which is the generic for Retin A, that there's decades of great data behind that. Gold standard studies, double blind, randomized controls. So you know that is working wonders for your skin. It is thinning that superficial layer, the most superficial layer of your skin that gets crusty and flaky and leads to dullness. That is gone. And then it thickens all the other layers of your skin and actually produces collagen in your skin if you continue to use it over time. We know that. And so what a wonderful thing to do instead of having to invest in other things like lasers or skincare treatments, which all will boost those tremendously. That is the one thing you can do on a daily basis that is helping to mimic some of those results we see with actual procedures that we do in the office.
Yeah, tretinoin is a chemical exfoliant, and while your skin's flaking off, your skin actually gets better underneath the surface. As Dr. Hamilton said, it preps your skin for any future treatment if you want it, specifically laser, RF microneedling, other things. And finally, tretinoin is actually generic now. So the prices are really quite good, I think, compared to skin firming serums, eyelid serums, or other things where they're over the counter and they actually cost more than tretinoin, which I've never fully understood.
Yeah, I think you just have to have access to a physician to get that, and they know it. So I agree with you. I think that choosing an excellent antioxidant and then being on preferably tretinoin, but if not, a high quality retinol or retinoid, those should be two musts in everybody's regimen, as well
Yeah.
as sunscreen.
Yeah. And then finally, if you have skin color issues, so this may be related to actually old trauma like acne scars, which are discolored, melasma, which can occur more often in women, it's an autoimmune issue. It pops up in pregnancy or menopause. Even when you get older and you have skin color discrepancies on your face, I do think that skin bleaching agent, specifically hydroquinone, which is prescription only, works great. What are your opinions on that, as well as the over-the-counter skin bleaching, skin color balancing, skincare options?
So the concentrations you'll get over the counter just aren't there. You couldn't even get hydroquinone for a long time over the counter because of concerns of actually carcinogen. So in Canada, that's why it's prescription only 100%. That's for long-term use at high concentrations. So you don't really have to worry about that if it's a temporary use. But 2% hydroquinone is not going to get you very far very quickly. So the prescription strength is going to be far more effective. That's why you need to see a physician to get those.
Yeah.
And I also really utilize hydroquinone as a skin prep. So we refer to it as patients as skin bleaching agents because it does lighten your skin, but the foundation of how it works, it actually shuts off melanin production. And so that's why that's a big component of my practice in terms of skincare prescriptions that I write, because whenever we, do really deep chemical peels, laser treatments, things like that, we want to make sure that we don't cause rebound hyperpigmentation. So it treats pigment, also helps to prevent future pigment.
Yeah. So, what are your opinions of homemade skincare? I mean, some of the things, of course, include cucumber slices, large salt crystals embedded in homemade soap. What do you like to do maybe once in a while, or do you recommend for patients, or you think it's actually effective?
I stick with the scientist created ones. I feel like, it's not that these things don't work, right? But it's the reason why we don't use the St. Ives apricot shells. So the danger of creating your own physical exfoliant is that if you have really big particles, you're actually like scraping off the skin versus having very fine microparticles that are buffing. It's kind of the difference between St. Ives versus microdermabrasion. But there are active ingredients in some of these, like vegetables, things like that. There's a reason why they use them in spas, but I just think in terms of efficacy, don't think the science is there. But if you enjoy it and it's relaxing for you, then go for it. What do you think?
That sounds great. I do admit I actually once in a while scrub my body with salt crystal solution because I guess I'm a dude and I enjoy the abrasion.
Yeah, on your body. I think that is a great idea. I think on the face, it can be a little bit harsh.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that about wraps it up because we've talked about, hey, there are ways to save money in terms of the foundation products, stuff that's available at a drugstore or cosmetic counter. Those things you want to look at so that you use them, but avoid fragrances, avoid the very expensive things. We've also recommended that, yes, you should see a doctor for prescription products which actually work well. And they're a more value conscious, price conscious way to avoid certain over the counter products which don't really work at all. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, this is why I make comprehensive skincare regimens for all my patients. And that's part of our role, is guiding you through this, because there is so much stuff out there, especially get on TikTok marketing, Instagram marketing, like everything looks incredible before and afters. Talk about that with like completely different lighting. So that's why it's important to have a trusted guide through the process.
Well, thanks so much for joining me, Dr. Hamilton, because this is another episode of The Beauty Scientist. For all our listeners and viewers out there, if you have any comments, please leave them below. And if you have any other topics you want us to discuss, please let us know. Stay beautiful.
Stay beautiful.
Thank you for joining us on The Beauty Scientist. Be sure to visit thebeautyscientist.com and learn more about modern beauty and connect with Dr. Hamilton and Dr. Kim.